The moment of reckoning. There is a time when the patience of God runs out, a moment when those who have lived by deception, manipulation, and self-glorification finally face the weight of their actions. The narcissist, the one who believes they can twist truth, use people, and escape consequences, is walking on borrowed time, because when God strikes back, it is not with petty revenge, but with divine justice that cannot be outrun. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to build their entire lives on lies and yet still prosper? Have you watched as manipulators rise in power, trampling on others while appearing untouchable? It can be disheartening. He can make you question whether justice is real. But make no mistake, no one escapes God's judgment forever. The Bible tells us in Revelation 6:7, "Do not be deceived, God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he says." What does this mean? It means that every action, every deception, every sin carries a price. The narcissist believes they are above this law. They believe they are the exception. But the truth is they are walking toward their own destruction. Today, we will uncover how God exposes and shames those who live in arrogance, deceit, and cruelty. We will see how their carefully built illusions crumble, how their own choices ensnare them, and how divine justice ensures that no one, no matter how powerful they seem, can escape the consequences of their actions. 1. The illusion of invincibility. When pride blinds the narcissist, there was no deception more dangerous than the belief that one is above consequence. It is a delusion woven into the very heart of the narcissist, a false assurance that they can act with impunity, deceive without restraint, and manipulate without ever paying the price. They do not fear exposure because they believe their cutting is unmatched. They do not fear justice because they assume they can outmaneuver it. And worst of all, they do not fear God because in their arrogance they have crowned themselves as gods in their own minds. Like a master illusionist, the narcissist craft an identity that is untouchable to the world. They appear confident, righteous, even wise. They manipulate reality itself, bending the perceptions of those around them to serve their own self-interest. They play the part of the leader, the savior, the visionary. But beneath the surface, their power is a facade, their strength an illusion, that empire built on sand. They believe they control people, but their control is a house of cards. They believe they control the truth. But truth cannot be silenced forever. They believe they control outcomes, but God is the one who determines their fate. Their pride blinds them to the inevitable. They see themselves as invincible, mistaking their temporary success for divine approval. Each deception emboldens them. Each manipulation feeds their ego. The more they get away with, the more reckless they become. They see the silence of others as submission. They see the patience of God as permission. But what they fail to understand is that justice is not absent. It is merely waiting. The Bible gives a stern warning. And Ecclesiastic 8:11, when the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, people's hearts are filled with schemes to do wrong. This is the trap of the narcissist, because God does not immediately punish them. They believe they have escaped judgment altogether. They believe they have mastered the system, evaded accountability, and secured their place above the reach of consequence. But their delay in punishment is not a pardon. It is a setup. Their own arrogance will be the instrument of their downfall. They think they are immune, but they are standing on borrowed time. They think they are in control, but they are walking toward destruction. They think they are gods, but they are only men, and men do not escape the hand of the Almighty. We see this pattern throughout history. Men who rose to power through deceit and cruelty, who ruled through fear, who silenced truth, who surround themselves with flatterers as enablers, believing their throne was unshakable. And yet one by one they fell. Pharaoh thought he was divine until his army drowned in the Red Sea. King Saul thought he could twist God's commands until his anointed was stripped from him. Herod thought he could exalt himself as a god until he was struck down and eaten by worms. That ends were not gradual, they were swift, decisive, and absolute. Proverbs 16:18 warns us. Pride goes before destruction. A haughty spirit before a fall. God does not simply humble the proud, he brings them to ruin. He does not merely strip away their illusions, he ensures that they are left exposed, ashamed, and powerless. For the narcissist, this realization comes too late. The warnings were there, the signs were clear, but they refused to listen. They ignored the voice of conviction. They silenced those who spoke the truth. They surrounded themselves with echoes of their own self-importance, never considering that one day the very lies they built their kingdom upon would turn against them. And when that moment comes, when the illusion of invincibility shatters, and they see themselves as they truly are, there is no escape. The same people they once deceived now see them clearly. The same power they once wielded slip through their fingers. And the same pride that made them feel untouchable becomes the noose around their own neck. God allows them to believe their own life for a season, but when he moves, there is no warning, no escape, no negotiation, only judgment. To the unraveling of lies, when truth breaks through, every lie a narcissist tells is a thread in the web of deception they weave around themselves. At first, the web appears impenetrable, crafted with precision, reinforced by manipulation, and sustained by the fear of those around them. But deception is never permanent. Lies require maintenance. They must be covered, protected, defended. The narcissist must always be working, always watching, always controlling, always ensuring that no one tugs at the wrong thread. But no deception can withstand the weight of reality forever. They tell one lie to cover another, until they cannot keep track. They control one person only for another to resist. They silence one critic, but more voices begin to rise. The cracks always begin small, a slip of the tongue, a contradiction in this story. A moment where their mask falters. At first, no one notices, but God does. Luke 8:17 warns us, for there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. When God moves, exposure is swift and undeniable. The very walls they built to keep themselves safe become a prison. The very lies they used to control others turn into shackles around their own wrists. The truth was never buried, it was waiting. They lied to others, but they could not lie to God. They controlled people, but they could not control the truth. They lived in deception, but now they must live in exposure, and when the moment of revelation arrives, everything falls apart at once. Imagine a dam holding back an ocean. At first, the cracks seem insignificant, barely noticeable, but with time the pressure builds. The cracks widen, the water presses in stronger and stronger until the dam can no longer hold, and then in an instant it bursts. It's the same happens with the narcissist's life. One moment they appear secure, their power intact. The next, their entire world comes crashing down around them. Some people might think they can escape judgment, that they can keep living in deception without consequence. But I want to remind you, if you have been deceived, if you have suffered at the hands of manipulators, if you have watched someone rise in power through falsehood, hold on, the unraveling is coming. Job 12:22 declares, reveals the deep things of darkness and brings utter darkness into the light. God is working even now, even when you do not see it. Truth is pressing against their lies, even when it seems like they have succeeded. Their downfall has already begun. If you believe that God exposes the wicked, comment below. The truth will come to light, because it will, and when it does, there will be no place left for them to hide. 3. Historical examples of downfall, how the mighty have fallen. History is filled with the stories of those who believed they were above consequence, who ruled with arrogance, and who manipulated their way into power only to be utterly destroyed when their moment of reckoning arrived. As individuals walked with an air of invincibility, convinced that their cutting their wealth or their influence would shield them from judgment, But God does not forget, and his justice does not sleep. Pharaoh, the king who defied God, Pharaoh stood as the most powerful ruler of his time. He enslaved God's people, rejected his warnings, and laughed at his commands. With each plague, he hardened his heart, believing himself untouchable. But when the final plague came, when the angel of death passed through Egypt, Pharaoh could no longer deny the power of God. Even then he pursued the Israelites into the Red Sea, determined to prove himself greater than the Almighty. And then in an instant the waters closed. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen. The entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea, not one of them survived. Exodus 14:28. Pharaoh believed himself to be a god, but he drowned as nothing more than a man. King Nebuchadnezzar, the emperor who was humbled, Nebuchadnezzar built one of the greatest empires in history. His wealth was unparalleled, his kingdom vast. One day, as he looked over Babylon, he said to himself, "Is not this the great Babylon I have built as the royal residence by my mighty power and for the glory of my majesty?" Daniel 4:30. In that moment, God struck him down. His mind was taken from him. He wandered in the wilderness like a wild animal. His kingdom was stripped away. He lost everything. Only when he finally acknowledged God's sovereignty did he regain his sanity. But his humiliation stood as a warning for generations. A reminder that no kingdom built on pride will stand. Jezebel, the queen who was devoured, Jezebel, was one of the most ruthless manipulators in Scripture. She used lies, seduction, and murder to maintain her power. She orchestrated the unjust execution of now both to steal his vineyard and lead Israel deeper into idolatry. She mocked God's prophets and believed she was above judgment. But when her moment of reckoning arrived, there was no escape. Who sent by God confronted her in that moment. Her own servants turned against her, throwing her from a window. The Bible tells us that dogs devoured her body, fulfilling Elijah's prophecy. Dogs will devour Jezreel by the wall of Jezreel. 2 Kings 9:10. She thought she had secured her power through deception, but her end was violent, humiliating, and final. Herod, the man who made himself a god in the New Testament. King Herod basked in his own glory when the people praised him, saying, "This is the voice of a God, not a man." He did nothing to correct them, but in that moment God struck him down. Immediately, because Herod did not give praise to God, an angel of the Lord struck him down, and he was eaten by worms and died. Acts 12:23. The man who claimed to be a god was consumed from the inside out. In every case, these rulers believed they were untouchable. They lived in arrogance, believing their power would last forever. But when the moment of judgment arrived, nothing could protect them. The same is true today. Those who build their lives on manipulation and deception may rise for a time, but their downfall is inevitable, because when God strikes back, he does not miss. For the price of betrayal when Treachery brings ruin. A narcissist life is built on betrayal. They use people, discard them, and move on as if nothing happened. They convince themselves that their actions have no weight, that their betrayals will never return to haunt them. But betrayal is not a one-way transaction. It is a seed planted in the ground, and given time, it grows into a harvest of destruction. The narcissist believes they can cheat the system, but they are wrong. The Bible gives a stern warning: do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he says. Colossians 6:7. They lie to gain favor, but now no one trusts them. They betrayed those closest to them, but now they stand alone. They thought they could escape consequence, but now the weight of their own actions is crushing them. Judas Iscariot, the ultimate betrayal. There is no clearer example of the price of betrayal than Judas Iscariot. For years, Jesus walked with Jesus. He witnessed miracles firsthand. He saw the sick healed, the dead raised, demons cast out. He heard the very voice of God speaking to him daily. And yet, when the moment came, he betrayed the Son of God for 30 pieces of silver. He thought he could profit from his deception. He thought he was making a calculated move. But once the betrayal was complete, he realized the full weight of what he had done. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver. Then he went away and hanged himself. Matthew 27:03-5. The money that seemed so valuable in the moment became worthless in his hands. The guilt can see doomed him. His own actions destroyed him. This is the fate of every betray, or they may enjoy the benefits of their deception for a time. But when the weight of their actions falls upon them, there is no escape. The narcissist's greatest fear: abandonment. A narcissist thrives on control. They need to have power over others. They require an audience, admiration, and validation. But here is the terrifying truth for them. The same people they used will one day turn away. The same allies they deceived will one day betray them in return. The same control they relied on will one day slip through their fingers. This is why betrayal is a double-edged sword. They believe they are in control, but the more they betray, the closer they come to their own downfall. The Bible says a man of crooked heart does not prosper, and one whose tongue is perverse falls into calamity. Proverbs 17:20. The narcissist may seem to be winning for a season. They may lie and escape consequences for a time. They may manipulate and still gain success. But their betrayals are stacking against them. A reckoning is coming. And when it arrives, it will be sudden, irreversible, and absolute. 5. The nature of divine justice. God's judgment is perfect and unavoidable. One of the most dangerous lies a narcissist believes is that justice does not apply to them. They convince themselves that they are too smart, too powerful, too well-connected to ever be held accountable. They assume that because they have evaded consequences for so long, they always will. They mistake God's patience for indifference. They mistake delayed judgment for permission. They mistake their continued success for divine approval. But they fail to realize something terrifying. God is not absent, He is watching. Know Him 103 reminds us the Lord is slow to anger, but great in power. The Lord will not leave the guilty unpunished. For a time it may seem like they are winning, their lies prosper, their manipulation succeeds, they continue to deceive, and no immediate punishment comes. But justice delayed is not just denied. The narcissist believes they are escaping judgment, but in reality they are only increasing this verity of what is coming. They think they are building their empire when in fact they're digging their own grave. They think they are securing their future when in reality they are guaranteeing their destruction. They think they have rewritten morality when in truth they have written their own sentence of condemnation. And when God moves, there is no escape, no negotiation, no second chance. God's judgment is precise and absolute. When justice finally arrives, it is not partial, it is complete. Proverbs 11:21 declares, "Be sure of this, the wicked will not go unpunished, but those who are righteous will go free." Narcissists often assume that judgment will come in the form of small inconveniences, temporary hardships, or minor setbacks. God's justice does not merely inconvenience the wicked. It destroys the very foundation of their illusion. They lose what they spent their life trying to build. They are exposed before those they once deceived. Their own arrogance turns against them, leaving them humiliated and powerless. The Bible tells us in Psalm 37:35-36, "I have seen a wicked and ruthless man flourishing like a luxuriant native tree, but he soon passed away and was no more. Though I looked for him, he could not be found." They may have stood tall and untouchable, but when the moment of divine reckoning arrives, they vanish like smoke in the wind. They do not just lose control, they lose everything. Their reputation is shattered, their influence is erased, their legacy is ruined. For years they control the narrative. Now the truth speaks louder than their lies. For years they silenced others. Now God silences them. For years they thought they could manipulate reality. Now reality has turned against them. This is the nature of divine justice. It is not only punishment, it is a total reversal of everything they once relied on. When they finally realize what is happening, it is too late to undo what they have done. They call themselves powerful, but now they are powerless. They believed they were untouchable by. Now they are completely exposed. They thought they controlled others, but now they cannot even control their own downfall. Justice is not absent, it is waiting. And when it strikes, it will not miss. 6. The realization and consequence. When they face the truth, and comes a moment in every narcissist's life when the illusions they have spent years constructing collapse under the weight of real allergy. This is not a slow erosion or a gentle unraveling. It is a sudden catastrophic reckoning that they never saw coming. For so long they walked with an air of invincibility, deceiving others, controlling narratives, twisting truth to suit their desires. But when God strikes back, their carefully curated existence crumbles, and they are left with the one thing they have avoided their entire lives, the truth about themselves. At first they resist. They try to regain control, scrambling to manipulate their way out of exposure. But their words, once powerful, will now carry no weight. The people who once feared them now see them for who they truly are. The influence they once wielded disappears, slipping through their fingers like sand. The reality they twisted and reshaped for so long suddenly refuses to bend for them anymore, and for the first time they find themselves lately powerless. The same people they deceived now turn away from them, no longer under their spell. The same lies that once protected them now work against them. The same pride that once gave them confidence now becomes their undoing. And as they stand in the wreckage of their own making, they realize something chilling. They did this to themselves. Proverbs 11:6 declares, "The righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the unfaithful are trapped by evil desires." For years they believed they were the ones in control, that their actions carried no consequence. But in the end, it was never their enemies, their victims, or even human justice that brought them down. It was their own arrogance. They lived by deception, and now they are suffocating in it. Perhaps the greatest punishment is not external, it is internal. The loss of reputation, power, and control is devastating. But the real agony comes from seeing themselves clearly for the first time, without their lies to shield them, without them and a palatial to protect them. They are forced to confront the emptiness inside them. They are not powerful. They are not righteous. They are not in control. They're simply broken, hollow, and completely alone. This is the justice of